Disclaimer. The takes on this podcast may not be backed by facts or statistics. In fact, most of the takes on this podcast are backed by feelings, not facts. Unfortunately, podcast equipment is free to purchase by the public. Please enjoy this podcast at your own discretion. On today's episode, Devin and Zane continue the conversation of how arse Dallas is, how arse the new NBA draft is going to be, and how arse Atlanta is a professional sports. Both basketball and football. Let's jump in.
Yeah, okay, good morning, afternoon, and evening. It's the guy you should believe in. Dropping heat like every season. Underdog like Willie Beeman. Classic like Dom singing. Blasting like bombs ringing.
Welcome back. I'm Devin, that's Zane, and this is Buffet Sports. But that's the thing. Not every draft class is generational talent, which is a good segue into the next topic, which is the NBA draft.
Yeah.
If you're an NBA fan, you are well aware that this draft class is arguably one of the worst, if not the worst, probably in the last, probably a decade, I'd say. What year was Anthony Bennett drafted? Yeah, this draft was terrible. This is another 2013 draft. The draft lottery was recently. We have it up on the screen, how the draft order went. And it's consensus one of the worst drafts ever. Probably, most likely. We obviously don't know quite yet. But it mirrors a lot of the 2013 draft, I think, is what comes to mind immediately. And I'll go through kind of how that draft ended up panning out. But it's consensus across.
That wasn't the De'Aaron Fox year, was it?
No.
Okay.
I think that was 16.
That's when I truly I followed basketball a little bit because I was a huge De'Aaron Fox guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This draft, basically, if you ask anyone who watches the NBA or follows it, basically the number one pick is in a normal draft is starting at 10.
Jesus Christ.
So basically the 20th pick in the first round is like the last pick in the first round equivalent. It's terrible. It's a terrible draft.
A lot of role players going to be taken here.
Yeah. Which is crazy to me. And it's this odd conversation, which is a different thing in football versus basketball. Basketball is an international sport. We have athletes across the world, and this is what we're putting in the draft for real.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, like Porzingis, right? When Porzingis got taken, nobody knew who he was.
Yeah, but he's not
there could be that
generational, though. This is the thing. This is why it mirrors. This is to me why it mirrors the 2013 draft. You probably won't. You might know a couple of the names in here, but NBA fans will.
I'll put up a finger if I know.
So Anthony Bennett was the first overall pick, the best bust, the biggest bust of all time. Number one pick in the NBA, number one pick in the G League. Victor Oladipo was the second pick. Otto Porter Jr. was third. Cody Zeller was fourth. And Alex Len rounded out the top five. Notable names from the rest of the draft, which is crazy to say that these guys were just drafted in 2013. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I don't know. He seems old as hell, but he got drafted in 13.
He seems like Meta World Peace old.
I know, but
yeah.
he's been in the league for 10 years, which is crazy. This is 10 years old. This draft is 11 years old now. Steven Adams was in this draft. Giannis was in this draft. Let's see. Tim Hardaway was in this draft. Rudy Gobert was in this draft.
A lot of big men. A lot of big men in this draft.
Yeah, and then there's names that I know but aren't notable. Tim Hardaway Jr., Solomon Hill, Mason Plumlee, Gorgie Zhang, Tony Snell, Dennis Schroeder, Shabazz Muhammad, Trey Burke.
Trey Burke is a wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans. I'm not joking, you. Trey Burke is literally a wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans.
I know.
I almost put up my finger there.
Ray McCallum. This draft was terrible. It's just. So anyways, my point is it could also be that the years that the Cowboys are bad, the draft isn't good for the
They just
same
need him.
reason. Go ahead.
I mean, CeeDee Lamb and Zeke, like, come on. I mean, didn't you say, yeah, 26? I was just talking about 2016. 2016
No,
was
no,
a
no.
great year
I'm
for
saying
athletes.
sure, but I'm saying like other than those two drafts, we looked at the other years that they were poverty and they had top 10 picks. They weren't like there's no names in there that we look back on and say, "Oh, wow, yeah, that guy had a career. That guy was really great." Outside of those couple years, those 2 years, that's literally 2 years, 2020
I mean, we'd
and
have to look through those entire drafts. I bet you there's a couple of names in there that we could be like, oh, those are franchise guys. That's what I would say. I don't believe that the reason why the Cowboys never really win in the playoffs and haven't won a Super Bowl in the past 14 years, well, since the 90s, is because every single time they're bad, it's just a bad draft class. I feel
no,
like
but I'm
that's
saying that's that's a contributor. I think it's a combination of geriatric Jerry and not being able to act, not acting in free
I feel like they
agency.
don't know how to develop. I feel like they only go with instant stars over there.
Yeah, could be. I don't know.
And I feel like they draft people with bad personalities.
I
Like
know.
like
I
they
hate
draft
Micah
people
off field.
they draft people with like that star mentality.
Yeah, I don't. That's the reason why I don't like Micah is his off field stuff. Um,
I like him. I like him.
but sticking to the NBA here, what's hilarious about this? So the draft class is terrible. If you go to the next slide, Adam Schefter tweeted in quoting that prior tweet. Atlanta ended up with the number one pick in the NBA draft, and everyone knows obviously that they took Michael Penix Jr. with the eighth pick in the NFL, or not they, but Atlanta, the Falcons did. In the NBA, they got the number one pick, and Adam Schefter quoted his tweet saying, "Atlanta is not expected to take another quarterback." And I just thought that's so funny. That's so funny to me. I don't know why. I just think it's hilarious that he's just the
What
sense
is
of
it?
humor there.
What is it with Atlanta? Why are they doing these things?
What do you mean?
That was the question. That's it. Why are they doing these things? Answer me.
Doing the
I feel like Atlanta. It's such a great place to have great football and great basketball. I don't know why they can't pull it together out of all places. They got the
well, they
money,
had the
right?
long they had the long stretch with Matt Ryan for a
I know, but
while.
like, I mean, I guess they had Michael Vick there, but
That got ruined.
I don't know. I feel like when I think about like cities, right? You think of and recently you think of Kansas City. Before you think of like New England Patriots, you think of like California,
I
and then
don't think of Atlanta as a good sports town though.
but I feel like it should be.
Like I've always looked at Atlanta, and this comes from the basketball part of me, because that's what I grew up really watching. The Hawks in the 2010s were just this like they were the Spurs of the East where they had no like star player but all their players were like 85 overall essentially where
I
like
feel
they
like
they were just a really good team but they never could get past LeBron. They never had a generational talent or a superstar and like I just aggressive mediocrity is what I associate like Atlanta sports with, like aggressive mediocrity.
maybe it's because like Georgia Bulldogs have like cemented their spot as like a top four that I'm thinking that the culture in Georgia should be like you have great sports teams. I'm thinking that's what I'm thinking about, but I just feel like Atlanta should be like a consistent,
Well, think
great.
about it. The Falcons were always like over 500. They were always in they were in double digit wins. Like during our like when we were watching sports, like when we were coming into like watching sports and being involved in like in sports talk, they were always like double digit wins when it came to the Falcons, but never and we were always and it was always like, oh, can Matt Ryan do it? He won one MVP, they went to the Super Bowl that one year, and then
Yeah.
they have the largest Super Bowl comeback ever is on like is against them. So I don't know. To me, I've always just associated Atlanta sports with just professional sports, at least with mediocrity, just like
I want to
aggressive
see
mediocrity.
I want to see Atlanta get better. That's what I want to see. I
It
want to
just
see
doesn't
Atlanta
feel
be.
right to me. I don't know why, but
To me, it does.
I can't see Atlanta like being good at a professional sport, like being
To me,
like a
Pittsburgh doesn't
contender.
seem like a place that should have any good sports teams, but they do consistently with Mike Tomlin. And then like
Their hockey team is good.
any in the northeastern part of the state shouldn't have any good football teams like Michigan or Minnesota. Like not those shouldn't be they shouldn't be good anywhere, but they are.
Why?
Like they
Why
just
don't you
don't
think
feel
that?
they don't feel like they're like they should be. I feel like Atlanta should be a place where it's like every year you gotta look out for Atlanta. And like I said before, I feel like
It's a
it's just
huge
the
untapped market.
I feel like just like it's so crazy that in the South professionally, they're ass. That doesn't make any sense in my brain. They should be
We don't
great.
really have a team that we don't really have like a state. Is there a state in the South that's like good professionally?
No, but that's what I'm saying because you look high school and college, they're the best. You know what I'm saying? Like high school and college, the South is the
But that
best.
doesn't, but then that's such a hard leap though, because that doesn't mean that you're going to get drafted to your hometown team.
I know, but I feel like because like in these first two levels, they are the best. In the highest level, in the third level, I feel like you guys should still. It just makes sense in my brain that they would be the best because they're the best in the two levels beneath them. Like high school and then in college, if you're from Texas or Georgia or Alabama, you are the best. And then we get to the
I feel like
NFL or
it's
the
the city.
NBA,
I
and
feel
it's
like Atlanta is just not a place that like it's a place that people want to trap, not like not play sports.
why
You know what
doesn't
I'm saying?
Alabama have a professional football team?
Market wise.
I mean, Roll Tide, baby. That's a huge market.
Exactly.
Roll Tide's a
Exactly.
huge market.
Exactly. But that's why, because
Nick
roll
Saban,
tide.
Nick Saban. Well, what if Nick Saban starts a new NFL team in Alabama? That's a market. Birmingham, Alabama. I mean, there's already a UFL team in Birmingham,
Yeah, but they're not like the market. I don't think the market could support a pro team because everyone is
bro.
so
It's Alabama though.